What happens when a wealthy heiress challenges her maid to a fight? The battle that follows will leave you stunned as the quiet servant reveals a hidden strength no one saw coming. Prepare for a twist that will change everything you thought you knew about power and pride. In the heart of a lavish mansion, the air was thick with an undeniable sense of privilege. A young woman, clad in expensive designer clothes, strode confidently across the polished floors. Her name was Emily, and she was the epitome of wealth and status, known for her sharp wit and beauty. She was a regular at the most exclusive social events, surrounded by admirers, but today, she wasn't surrounded by the glittering world of high society. Instead, she was face to face with someone who, at first glance, appeared to be beneath her maid, Maria. Emily, with her well-known black belt in karate, had never met a challenge she couldn't conquer. It was a skill that not only showcased her physical prowess but also gave her a sense of superiority over others. Maria, on the other hand, had always remained a quiet presence in the background, diligently attending to her duties, but today, Emily's arrogance was about to meet its match. As Emily walked past Maria, an impulsive thought crossed her mind. What better way to entertain herself than to test the limits of this humble maid? With a mischievous grin, she turned to Maria and, with a voice full of confidence, declared, "I've mastered karate. Do you think you can take me on in a fight?" The challenge hung in the air, almost daring Maria to refuse. Her friends, who had gathered in the room, stopped what they were doing and watched in disbelief. The idea of the rich, privileged girl engaging in a fight with a quiet maid was absurd, yet oddly intriguing. Emily, who had always been the center of attention, expected a quick laugh and an easy victory. After all, how could someone with no formal training possibly hope to compete with a seasoned martial artist? But as Emily stared into Maria's eyes, something unexpected happened. Instead of backing down, Maria stood still, her expression calm, yet unwavering. It was clear that she wasn't intimidated by the challenge. With a small nod, she quietly accepted Emily's challenge. The room fell into a tense silence. Emily's confidence swelled after all. She had everything to prove and nothing to lose. But little did she know, Maria's quiet demeanor was hiding a depth of strength and skill that would soon turn this seemingly innocent challenge into an unforgettable lesson in humility. As the challenge was thrown, a wave of silence rippled through the room. Emily's confident smirk was met with a surprising stillness. Everyone had expected Maria to recoil, to stutter out an apology, or perhaps even to laugh nervously at the audacity of Emily's suggestion. But that didn't happen. Instead, Maria's gaze locked with Emily's, her eyes calm, unwavering, and strangely serene. There was no hesitation, no second-guessing. Maria stood motionless, her posture impeccable as if she had been waiting for this moment her entire life. It was as though time slowed, and in that instant, the disparity between the two women, the rich heiress and the quiet servant, seemed to evaporate. Emily, momentarily taken aback, raised an eyebrow, thinking that Maria must have misunderstood the playful nature of her challenge. Surely she didn't believe she stood a chance against Emily's black belt skills. Yet, in an act of quiet defiance, Maria spoke, her voice soft but powerful. "I accept your challenge." The words hung in the air like an unspoken promise. The room, which had been filled with quiet whispers and laughter, now fell completely silent. Emily's friends, still processing the audacity of it all, exchanged confused glances. The maid, the one who spent her days folding linens and cleaning floors, what could she possibly bring to this match? Maria's demeanor, so poised and unbothered, contrasted sharply with Emily's overconfident bravado. Maria wasn't just accepting the challenge, she was doing so with a deep sense of resolve, as if she knew something the others did not. It was as though her silence carried an unspoken weight, hinting at a strength forged not from status or recognition but from something far more profound. Emily, momentarily unsure of herself, tried to shake off the doubt that crept into her mind. Surely this wouldn't be as simple as she thought. Yet her pride refused to let her back down. "You sure about this?" Emily taunted, stepping into a fighting stance, her black belt almost gleaming in the light. "I don't go easy on anyone." Maria did not flinch. Instead, she stepped forward, slow and deliberate, her movements fluid yet filled with purpose. She wasn't rushing into this fight. There was no frantic energy, no wild desire to prove herself. Her calmness was unnerving, as if she knew that this battle, whether won or lost, was far more than just about the fight itself. As the room held its breath, Maria slowly began to shed her apron, revealing a figure far stronger than anyone had anticipated. Her arms, though not bulging with muscle, moved with a quiet strength that could not be ignored. Emily, whose gaze had been locked on Maria in mock amusement, now found herself on edge. There was something about the maid's presence that was different. Maria wasn't just standing there as a servant anymore. She had shifted into someone else. This wasn't the timid, subservient maid who smiled softly at Emily's demands. This was someone who had, for years, hidden her true self, someone who carried a quiet confidence in her abilities, masked by the role she had chosen to play. Maria wasn't intimidated by Emily's black belt. nor was she impressed by her wealth. No, Maria was motivated by something far greater: respect for herself. With a deep breath, Maria squared her shoulders and said only one thing: "I've been trained to." The impact of those words reverberated through the room, louder than any punch or kick could ever land. Maria wasn't simply accepting the challenge. She was revealing that she was no stranger to discipline, to martial arts, and to the strength that came with it. And in that moment, Emily realized something that she hadn't expected. She wasn't facing just a maid. She was facing a woman with her own story, her own power, and her own undeniable skills. The fight was about to become far more than either of them had bargained for. The tension in the room was palpable, thick with anticipation as the first move was about to be made. Emily's friends, still struggling to grasp the gravity of what was unfolding before their eyes, stood frozen. Whispers of doubt and disbelief trickled through the group, but none dared to speak as they watched the two women facing each other, one an heiress with a black belt and years of martial arts experience, and the other a quiet maid who had just revealed she was no stranger to the art of combat. The challenge had been thrown, and now there was no turning back. Emily, her confidence still brimming despite the unsettling calm radiating from Maria, took a deep breath and stepped forward. With a swift, fluid motion, she assumed a defensive stance, her eyes narrowing with focus. She knew the first move could determine the pace of the fight, and she was determined to set the tone. Her mind raced through the countless sparring matches she had participated in, the countless drills she had perfected over the years. She was ready. With a sudden burst of energy, Emily lunged forward, her fist aimed directly at Maria's face. Her movements were fast, precise, exactly as one would expect from someone who had dedicated years to honing their skills. But what Emily hadn't accounted for was Maria's ability to anticipate her every move. As the punch came within inches of Maria's face, she calmly sidestepped, her body flowing effortlessly out of the way. The room gasped as Emily's fist hit nothing but air. In the same motion, Maria's arm shot forward, delivering a quick jab to Emily's side, a sharp reminder that this was no ordinary maid. The impact was enough to make Emily stumble back slightly, her breath hitching as the realization settled in. Maria was not here to lose. Emily's eyes widened, and for a brief moment, doubt crept into her mind. Maria had not only avoided her attack, but she had countered it with a precision that was almost too fast to follow. She was more than just a maid, she was a fighter. And though Emily's ego had led her to believe this would be an easy win, it was clear now that she was facing someone who could stand her ground. Shaking off the initial shock, Emily quickly regained her composure. This time she shifted her stance, aiming for a series of kicks, her movements swift and aggressive. She kicked with speed, her legs cutting through the air, each strike designed to test Maria's defense. But once again, Maria was unfazed. She weaved through the kicks with a fluidity that spoke of years of training, her feet gliding across the floor with grace. Each time Emily's foot came dangerously close to landing, Maria would either duck, twist, or shift her weight, always staying one step ahead. The onlookers were now glued to the scene, their eyes wide with shock and awe. What had initially seemed like a jock-rich girl challenging her maid was rapidly transforming into an intense and captivating fight. It was no longer about status, money, or pride. It was about pure skill and determination. Each move, each counterattack, was a testament to the fact that Maria had been hiding her true abilities all along. But Emily wasn't ready to give up. With a fierce determination, she launched herself forward again, her foot aiming for a high kick aimed at Maria's head. This time, the strike was faster, sharper, more dangerous. Emily's breath was coming in short bursts, but she could feel her adrenaline pumping. She needed to win, she had to win. And as her foot soared toward Maria, time seemed to slow. Maria, calm as ever, lifted her hand in a perfect parry, redirecting Emily's kick just enough for it to miss its mark. The force of the kick sent Emily spinning slightly, and in that moment of vulnerability, Maria saw her opening. Before Emily could fully recover, Maria closed the distance, moving like lightning. She struck with a series of rapid, precise blows to the chest, one to the ribs, and then a final push that sent Emily stumbling back, gasping for air. Emily's confidence had started to crumble. Maria wasn't just avoiding her attacks, she was outclassing her. The fight, once thought to be an easy win, was quickly becoming a battle for pride and survival. And the maid, it seemed, had more than just humility and patience on her side. She had strength, skill, and an unshakable will to win. The atmosphere in the room had shifted from tense to electrifying. Emily, the self-assured heiress with the black belt, was now clearly on the defensive. Each of her strikes, once precise and powerful, was being effortlessly countered by Maria, whose movements flowed with an unmatched grace and poise. The initial surprise of the maid's unexpected skill had now turned into a quiet realization. This fight was far from over, and Maria was not just defending herself. She was in complete control. As Emily stumbled backward, her chest heaving with exertion, she shot a quick glance toward her friends. Their faces were filled with a mix of shock and disbelief. This wasn't the outcome they had anticipated. No one, not even Emily herself, had imagined that the quiet, humble maid would possess such skill. But as Maria stood her ground, poised and unshaken, it became clear that the fight was now shifting in her favor. Emily's mind raced, trying to recalibrate. She had always been the center of attention, the one who stood above everyone else, effortlessly surpassing challenges. She wasn't used to being outmatched, yet here she was, on the edge of defeat. Her opponent, a maid who had always seemed invisible in the grand scheme of things, was proving to be her equal, if not her superior. In the midst of her frustration, something unexpected happened. Maria, with a calm, almost meditative presence, shifted the momentum of the fight with a single, subtle gesture. As Emily lunged forward once again, determined to land a decisive blow, Maria raised her hand, not to defend, but to gently block Emily's attack. For a split second, everything seemed to freeze. Emily's eyes locked onto Maria's face, and it was in that moment, when the two women stood inches apart, that the truth hit Emily like a tidal wave. The maid, Maria, wasn't just defending herself, she was teaching her a lesson. It was a lesson in humility, in strength, in knowing one's worth despite external appearances. Maria's eyes, serene and steady, met Emily's, and in that look, Emily saw something she had overlooked her entire life, the strength of quiet determination. Maria wasn't the maid anymore. She was a fighter who had kept her true abilities hidden under the guise of a servant, and in that moment, Emily realized that she had underestimated her opponent. The crowd, once filled with whispers of doubt and laughter, now watched in rapt silence. They had witnessed the turning point in this fight, the moment when Maria's true skill had been revealed. Emily's bravado had melted away, replaced by a deep, sinking realization. She had been outmatched by someone she had once believed was beneath her. As Maria prepared for the next move, the room held its breath. The fight had taken on a new dynamic. Emily was no longer the confident contender. She was now a woman who had been forced to confront her own arrogance and the hidden strength of the maid she had once dismissed. And Maria, she was ready to finish what she had started. The room was silent. The once loud echoes of Emily's confident taunts and arrogant footsteps had faded into nothingness. What had begun as a light-hearted challenge, a rich girl testing the limits of her maid, had transformed into a battle for pride, respect, and ultimately, a lesson in humility. And now, the end was near. Emily stood, breathless and disoriented. Her black belt, once a symbol of superiority, now felt like a heavy weight around her waist. Her eyes darted nervously across the room, hoping for some kind of reassurance, some sign that her confidence might return, but it didn't. The moment when Maria had shifted the fight into her favor had completely shaken Emily. She was no longer the predator. She had become the prey. Maria, on the other hand, stood with quiet composure. Her breathing was steady, controlled, and despite the intensity of the fight, there was no sign of exhaustion on her face. She wasn't just winning. She had been winning since the moment she decided to step into the ring with Emily. She had nothing to prove. This wasn't about revenge, nor was it about being better than Emily. It was about showing the world, and herself, that strength is not measured by wealth or status, but by discipline, patience, and respect for one's own abilities. Maria moved forward, slowly closing the gap between herself and Emily. The audience, which had once been filled with laughter and mockery, was now holding its breath. No one dared to make a sound. The fight that had seemed so absurd just moments ago was now unfolding as an epic showdown of wills, and all eyes were fixed on Maria. With a fluid motion, Maria stepped into Emily's guard, not with aggression but with a sense of calm that felt almost otherworldly. She didn't need to be harsh or brutal to win. Her movements were graceful, controlled, and precise. In a single smooth motion, she delivered a swift, well-placed strike to Emily's chest, just enough to send her stumbling backward. Emily's knees buckled as she crashed to the floor, gasping for air. She looked up at Maria, her eyes wide with disbelief. The rich girl, who had once prided herself on her physical prowess, had just been defeated by someone she had once thought of as beneath her. The shock was overwhelming. Her chest burned from the exertion, and her mind raced to process what had just happened. She had been outclassed in every way that mattered. Maria had proven to be the better fighter and the better person. Maria stood tall, her expression soft but resolute. There was no smugness in her face, no triumphant smirk. She didn't need to gloat. The victory spoke for itself. She had taught Emily a lesson, not just in martial arts, but in humility, strength, and respect. The onlookers, once skeptical and mocking, now stood in awe. They had witnessed something incredible, something that would stay with them long after this day. Emily, still on the floor, looked up at Maria, her eyes filled with a mixture of admiration and regret. I didn't know," she whispered, her voice trembling. Maria knelt beside her, offering her hand without hesitation. "Everyone has their strengths," Maria said softly. "Sometimes, it's the ones you least expect who show you what real strength is." Emily took Maria's hand, pulling herself to her feet. The fight was over, but the lesson had only just begun. The rich heiress had learned the hard way that true strength lies not in wealth or status, but in character, humility, and respect for others. Maria had not only won the fight, she had changed everything. And in that moment, both women knew that this experience would forever alter their lives, their perspectives, and the way they viewed the world. As the dust settled and the final echoes of the fight faded away, a powerful silence took over the room. What had begun as a mere challenge had turned into a moment of profound transformation for both women. Emily, the wealthy heiress, had learned the hard way that strength doesn't come from privilege or title, it comes from within. And Maria, the quiet maid, had shown the world that true power lies not in being seen, but in being secure in who you are. This was more than just a fight. It was a reminder that we all have our own battles to face, often unseen by others, and that true strength is found in the quiet resilience we carry within. So, the next time you find yourself questioning someone based on their appearance or status, remember, the most unexpected person can hold the greatest power. This story isn't just about martial arts or a challenge between two women. It's about humility, respect, and the realization that everyone has something valuable to offer. As you step into the world today, remember to never underestimate someone's ability, and always stay humble. After all, you never know when the underdog might surprise you. Thank you for witnessing this incredible journey. May it inspire you to embrace your own strengths and to recognize the hidden power in everyone you meet.